Right now, as you watch this, a war is being fought. Not with bullets or bombs, but with words, images, and contradictions designed to break your ability to think clearly. Your mind is under siege, and you do not even know it. You scroll through your feed, you hear one expert say one thing, another says the opposite. Yesterday's fact becomes today's conspiracy theory, and slowly, something inside you gives up. Not because you are weak, but because that exhaustion was the goal all along. Mental war has begun. Hannah Arendt warned us decades ago about this exact moment. She said the goal of propaganda is not to convince you of a lie, as she wrote. The ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction no longer exists. Today, we are going to explore how information warfare targets your mind, why it works, and most importantly, how you can fight back. This is not just politics, this is psychology, and your psyche is the battleground. Engineered doubt. Have you ever found yourself unable to form an opinion about something because you have heard too many conflicting versions of the same story? That paralysis is not accidental. Confusion is not a side effect, it is the product. Psychologists call this cognitive overload. When your brain receives contradictory information simultaneously, it enters a state of defensive shutdown. You stop trying to figure out what is true because the cost of thinking becomes too high. This is not a bug in human cognition. It is a feature that can be exploited. Imagine you hear that a certain food is deadly one week and essential the next. Eventually, you stop caring about nutrition altogether. That resignation is exactly what certain systems want from you. As the philosopher Noam Chomsky observed, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. The doubt you feel is not a sign of intelligence. It is often a sign that someone engineered your confusion. Doubt was designed, and the scariest part, you cannot fight an enemy you do not know exists. But this leads us to someone who saw all of this coming decades before the internet even existed. Arendt's warning. In 1951, Hannah Arendt published a book that would become one of the most important political texts of the 20th century. The Origins of Totalitarianism was not just a history book, it was a warning. Warning from history. Arendt studied how ordinary people in Germany and the Soviet Union were transformed into instruments of totalitarian power, and what she discovered was terrifying. The regimes did not start with violence, they started with information. They flooded the public with so many lies, half-truths, and contradictions that people lost the ability to distinguish fact from fiction. The goal was never to make you believe the lie. The goal was to make you exhausted, to make you cynical, to make you give up on truth altogether. Arendt called this the preparation of victims and executioners. Once people stop believing anything can be true, they will accept anything because nothing matters anymore. As she warned, the result of a consistent and total substitution of lies for factual truth is not that the lie will now be accepted as truth, but that the sense by which we take our bearings in the real world is being destroyed. Destroyed. Think about that word, not confused, not misled, destroyed. And what Arendt described in the context of mid-century fascism is happening again in a form she never imagined. Truth fatigue. There is a concept in psychology called decision fatigue. After making too many choices, your brain literally runs out of the energy needed to make good ones. This is why judges grant more paroles in the morning than in the afternoon. This is why you order junk food at night after a long day. Now apply this same principle to truth. Every day you are bombarded with claims that require mental effort to evaluate. Is this news real? Is that study legitimate? Is this expert credible? Is that statistic manipulated? In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Your brain eventually does what any exhausted system does. It shuts down, not completely but selectively. You stop fact-checking. You stop questioning. You start accepting whatever feels comfortable or whatever the people around you believe. If this psychological mechanism is resonating deep within you, hit like and subscribe for more psychological insights that will sharpen your mind. Because what comes next explains why this fatigue is not natural. It is manufactured. Truth fatigue is real. Researchers at MIT found that false information spreads 6 times faster than true information on social media. Your tired mind is not broken, it is being broken on purpose. And that brings us to the weapon being used against you. Fire hose of lies. Military strategists have a term for the modern propaganda technique. They call it the fire hose of falsehood. The strategy is simple but devastatingly effective. You do not need to convince anyone of a single lie. You just need to spray so many lies so fast from so many directions that the truth drowns in the noise. The volume is the weapon, not the content. A study by the Rand Corporation identified two key features of this strategy. First, it is high volume and multi-channel. Lies come from news, social media, influencers, bots, and even people you trust. Second, it has a shameless willingness to disseminate partial truths or outright fictions. There is no commitment to consistency. One day the message is one thing, the next day it is the opposite, and that contradiction is intentional. Contradictions are not mistakes, they are the strategy itself. Because when two official sources contradict each other, your brain does not pick a side, it gives up. As the French philosopher of propaganda Jacques Ellul wrote, propaganda does not aim to elevate man, but to make him serve. Serve without knowing. And if you think you are immune to this, what comes next will prove otherwise. Expert paradox. Here is something that should disturb you. When experts publicly disagree on a topic, it does not make people smarter. It makes them stop listening to all experts entirely. The death of expertise is not caused by ignorance, but by the appearance that expertise itself is unreliable. This is called manufactured uncertainty, and the tobacco industry perfected it. For decades, cigarette companies did not try to prove that smoking was safe. They simply funded enough studies to create the illusion of scientific disagreement. As long as experts seemed divided, the public felt justified in ignoring the danger. Manufactured doubt kills. The same playbook has been used for climate change, for nutrition science, for pharmaceutical debates. Find a few dissenting voices, amplify them to equal volume, and watch as the public concludes that nobody really knows anything. Paralysis. That paralysis is the product. Because a confused population is a controllable population. When everyone is an expert, then nobody is. Your inability to trust experts is not because experts are untrustworthy. It is because someone invested billions of dollars to make you feel that way. And once that trust collapses, something terrifying takes its place. Mental surrender. In the 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman discovered a phenomenon he called learned helplessness. Dogs that were repeatedly subjected to unavoidable shocks eventually stopped trying to escape even when the door was wide open. They had learned that their actions did not matter. Learned helplessness. Now think about what happens when a person is repeatedly subjected to contradictory information with no clear path to truth. They learn the same lesson. Trying does not matter. Seeking truth is pointless. Nothing I do will help me understand what is real. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. This is not laziness. This is a documented psychological response to an impossible environment. Your apathy was programmed into you. When someone says they do not care about politics or they have stopped following the news, that is not independence. That is surrender. And it is exactly the response that information warfare is designed to produce. The open door exists, but you have been trained not to see it. The mind that gives up on truth becomes a mind that accepts anything, and that vacuum does not stay empty for long. Someone always steps in to fill it. Loudest voice wins. Here is the darkest part of this entire equation. When truth collapses, power does not disappear, it concentrates. Concentrates. In the absence of shared facts, people do not become free thinkers. They become followers of whoever speaks with the most confidence. 1. Confusion creates a vacuum. 2. The vacuum demands certainty. 3. Certainty comes from authority. 4. Authority requires obedience. This is exactly what Arendt described. The leader does not need to be right. The leader needs to be loud, consistent, and unshakable in their certainty, while everyone else drowns in doubt. Volume beats truth. Think about the people you see online who speak with absolute certainty about complex issues. No nuance, no hesitation, no acknowledgement of complexity. They attract millions of followers not despite their oversimplification, but because of it. As Bertrand Russell wisely noted, the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts. Your exhausted mind craves certainty the way a starving body craves sugar. Fast, easy, and ultimately destructive, but the manipulation goes even deeper than what you hear. Emotional hijack. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux discovered something that changes how we understand information warfare. Emotional stimuli reach the amygdala, your brain's fear center, faster than they reach your prefrontal cortex, where rational thinking happens. This means you feel before you think. and modern propaganda exploits this biological fact with surgical precision. Every outrage headline, every shocking image, every us versus them narrative is designed to trigger your amygdala before your rational mind has a chance to respond. You are being manipulated through your own biology. Once your emotions are activated, your capacity for critical thinking drops dramatically. Studies show that people in states of anger or fear are significantly worse at evaluating the quality of arguments. They accept weak evidence. They reject strong evidence. They make decisions based on how they feel, not what they know. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our freedom and our power to choose our response. Feel first, think never. That space Viktor Frankl described is exactly what information warfare tries to eliminate. No space, no pause, just react. But there is something even more disturbing about how deep this goes. Invisible chains. The most effective prison is the one where the prisoner does not know they are imprisoned. A controlled mind feels free because it has forgotten what freedom looks like. Noam Chomsky described this as manufacturing consent. The idea that public opinion is not formed organically but is carefully shaped by institutions that control the flow of information. You do not choose what to think about. Algorithms choose for you. You do not discover what matters. Trending topics tell you what matters. Your free will is an illusion, maintained by invisible architects. And here is the most painful part. When someone points this out, when someone says you are being manipulated, your first instinct is to deny it. Because admitting that your beliefs might be manufactured feels like admitting that you are stupid, but you are not stupid. It is easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. The chains you cannot see are the hardest ones to break. Wake up. Intelligence is not the issue. The system is designed to work on intelligent people. In fact, intelligent people often build more sophisticated rationalizations for the beliefs that were handed to them. But there is a way out. Reclaim your mind. If everything I have described sounds terrifying, good, because awareness is the first weapon. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent his career studying how our minds deceive us, and he concluded that the best defense is not more intelligence, it is more humility. We can be blind to the obvious, and we are also blind to our blindness. Awareness is power. Here is what you can do right now. First, slow down. That space between stimulus and response is your freedom. When something triggers an emotional reaction, pause before you share, before you react, before you form an opinion. Second, seek discomfort in your information diet. If everything you read confirms what you already believe, you are in a prison built specifically for you. Third, embrace uncertainty. Not knowing is not weakness. The courage to say I do not know is the beginning of real knowledge. Fourth, remember that the goal of information warfare is exhaustion. Every time you choose to think critically despite the difficulty, you are winning a battle they designed you to lose. As Terence McKenna said, reclaim your mind. Do not let institutions think for you. That is the most radical act of all. Your mind was never the casualty of this war. It was always the target. From Arendt's warnings to the algorithms shaping your reality right now, every piece of this puzzle points to the same truth. Your mind is sacred. The battlefield is not somewhere out there. It is between your ears. And the most important fight you will ever fight is the fight to keep thinking for yourself. Not to be right about everything, but to refuse to stop trying to understand. If you made it this far, comment mental sovereign to prove that your mind still belongs to you. As Carl Jung wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Make the invisible visible, question the unquestionable, and above all, never surrender the one thing that makes you human, your ability to think. Welcome to the Psyche Project. If this opened your eyes, hit like and subscribe. Understanding your own mind is the most important work you will ever do.